Well, we continue with our coverage today, an entire day dedicated to commemorating 365 days of this genocide against the people of Palestine and also 75 years of occupation. And as we witness this full year of this genocide in Palestine, it is not only the 365 days that we remember, it is 75 years of occupation that we cannot ignore, and it is painful. It is painful for us to look back over the past year. Salam Media has covered this genocide. We've seen the scale of brutality. We've seen the destruction in real time. And we've seen how innocent lives have been lost under the most inhumane, under the most brutal, under the most barbaric manner that human beings could actually carry out. And we remember many an incident, many a massacre that has taken place. And as much as it is painful for us, can one imagine how painful it is for people who are Palestinian by birth, who are Palestinian by descent, who are in the diaspora, who are far removed, or perhaps even very close, a case of so near yet so far in a country like Jordan, where you see right across Jordan, just barely a few kilometers away, Masjid al Aqsa being desecrated, the West Bank, and what is playing out in Gaza. And what are Palestinians actually feeling? What do they remember? What do they think about on a day like this, where we look at 365 days? We see this genocide has been nonstop and relentless. And one of the people that we were fortunate to meet up, even at the global conference that had taken place here in South Africa from Jordan, was Sister Lina Abojaradeh, who is in Amman in Jordan. Sister Lina, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's always an absolute pleasure, and we thank you. We do appreciate you taking time out.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you so much for all the work you've been doing in Salam Media. I'm so impressed by your dedication to the Palestinian cause, and it means a lot to me as a Palestinian. So thank you.
Well, we will continue, inshallah. You know, the Almighty gives us the strength, and it is only through people like yourselves as well, it's through our brothers and sisters in Palestine that we are inspired to continue with the type of work that we are doing. And more importantly, we ask of acceptance from the Almighty. But again, coming to today, I'm sure, Lina, a lot flashing through your mind, so many memories, someone of Palestinian descent, to see what is happening to members, your brothers, your sisters, members of your own family. And we're not only talking about Gaza, we're talking about the entire Palestine.
Yeah, for sure. I think I don't know how do we react as people who have been waking up to a genocide on our TV screens every day, knowing that our brothers and sisters in Gaza are living this daily. It's almost incomprehensible. And as a new mom myself, I just keep thinking of, mothers who are waking up without their children, or who have to bury their children, or who can't find food for their children. So it's very hard. But I was reflecting on October 7th and how we woke up last year to the news that, these Palestinian resistors essentially broke free from their prison. And I think this is something the West can never understand, that sense of victory that I think all Palestinians, all marginalized people, all indigenous people felt in that moment. And so, although, 40,000 plus Palestinians who were murdered is very hard to reflect on, I think it's also important to remember that October 7th was the beginning of the end of Israel. And it was really a moment of awakening for so many people all around the world who had never known what Palestine meant, or the strength of Palestinians. And so I'm trying to, reflect on the positive, although it's very hard considering, the bloodshed and the massacres that have been happening and that are happening today, that are continuing to happen.
Yes, but what actually amazes me, Lina, is having covered this entire genocide from day one since the 7th of October 2023, is how positive the people of Palestine has been. And we've done countless, we've done interviews, hundreds of interviews throughout this entire year. And when you speak about the beginning of the end for this occupying entity called Israel, and I've heard the sentiment over and over again, and we are truly inspired just by the positive sentiments that are expressed by people like yourselves and generally the Palestinian nation as a whole, that we will go through. Yes, we will suffer, but at the end of the day, victory will be ours.
Yeah, I think it's tied to faith. And of course, I, like, as a Palestinian in the diaspora, as someone who isn't living the atrocities that they're living daily, um, like what I'm reflecting is nothing compared to the patience and resilience and strength of the people of Gaza, the people of the West Bank. But I think it goes down to their faith. Like God, we know that God promised us that, you know, one day Palestine will be free. And I think it also goes back to this idea that there, like in the history of the world, no murderous regime has been sustainable. We saw the French colonization of Algeria, which lasted much longer than the occupation of Palestine, and that fell. We've seen many, very strong nations rise and fall, and so I think I think we have that belief that one day Israel will come to an end, and I think the way that Netanyahu is acting in such a barbarous manner, in a way that I don't think we've seen in decades. Even people of Lebanon were saying that the shelling was something that they haven't even seen from the 2000s. It was the worst shelling that they've witnessed in the history of Lebanon. So I think that Netanyahu is speeding up this process of the end of Israel. And I think at the end of barbarous regimes is when they really act out in horrendous manner, in the worst manner. And so I think all of this is really just speeding up the process of Palestine being liberated. Obviously, it's not easy. Obviously, it's horrible. But I think we're going to get there. And I think the people of Gaza, they have this in their hearts. They know this. And even if they've lost family members, even if they're martyred, they know that if they're martyred, they're in a better place with God. And if they're still alive, that this is something, a burden that God has placed on them, that will ultimately, like the fruits of this will ultimately be down the road of a free Palestine, of their children or their grandchildren living in a liberated Palestine, free from this atrocious Israeli regime.
Obviously, this has come at a huge price, Lina, to people, to their lives, to their families, to their property, to all the death, the destruction, the deprivation, the degradation that takes place, and also in terms of the leadership as well. And we know that the Palestinian people are resilient. We've seen how leadership has been taken down since, even if you look at one looks like an organization like Hamas from Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, Dr. Abdulaziz Rantisi, and now, Dr. Ismail Hania as well. And then we've seen what has happened to the Lebanese, to the Hezbollah leadership as well. But the Palestinians have been obviously honored with this special quality to rise above all adversity, no matter how serious and how bad or this adversity is that they are facing. But they are a nation that will rise. And just on Wednesday, I conducted an interview with a professor, Professor Nidal Sakar, and he expressed the same confidence, the same positivity that you have, that Benjamin Netanyahu is actually digging the hole that will lead to his own demise and the demise of the Zionist entity. And he says, he even went on to say, comes 2028, he says, book your tickets. We're all going to be meeting in Ramadan in Aqsa.
Inshallah, yeah. Ahmed Yassin, he predicted the end of Israel in 2027, I believe. So my mother keeps reminding me this. She's like, we're almost there. And I do believe that, like, the shift that we witnessed this year, we've never witnessed it before in terms of global awareness, in terms of all free people around the world uniting against Israel and really seeing Israel for what it truly is. And so there is reason to hope. Of course, it's still very hard for the people of Gaza. They're really bearing the weight of the liberation of the entire Islamic ummah in a sense. I mean, when we see all of the other Arab countries that are really under a soft colonialism, they're not really free. So Gaza really has the only free people in the region, and they're bearing this weight, and they're paving the way to a free Palestine and hopefully to a free ummah. Free of colonization, free of the Western powers that are exploiting our resources. I was seeing that France, Australia, they were all commemorating October 7th and calling it the worst terrorist attack, and how they're 1 year on, they feel so bad for the victims of October 7th without any mention of the Palestinians, of course. And so this shouldn't surprise us. I mean, we know that France was a colonial power. We know that Australia uh, massacred the indigenous people there. So I think it's time for us to break free from this subservience to the West and viewing the West as some sort of moral leader. And I think it's time for people to unite against that, against the colonial regime, the soft colonialism that's still happening today. And I think that's why the cause of Palestine is so much bigger than just being a cause for the Palestinian people. I think it's a cause for all free people all around the world. And I do believe it's going to create a shift in the world that we live in.
Well, certainly, and in Nelson Mandela's famous words, uh, South Africa cannot be free until Palestine is free, and the Ummah will not be free until Palestine is free as well. Sister Lina, shukran, jazakallah khairan so much for your time. As always, we do appreciate it, and I'm sure we will be engaging a lot more with you, inshallah, going forward. But for now, we thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you so much.
That was Lina Abojaradeh joining us out of Amman in Jordan this morning, which brings an end to this particular segment of our coverage today, our all-day coverage on 365 days of this genocide in Gaza and looking beyond that at 75 years of occupation. And once again, Alhamdulillah, Allah has granted us at Salam Media the opportunity to cover all of this in the last 365 days. It's been non-stop, and it's been Alhamdulillah, to actually cover this genocide. And during this time, we have been able to engage with Palestine solidarity throughout the entire country, attending protests, public engagements, panel discussions. We spent many, many hours, broadcasting hours that have been dedicated, as we spoke, to countless journalists, to doctors, to activists, to analysts, academics. And Alhamdulillah, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this. And throughout the last year, also, the two major campaigns that we had conducted, Dr. Mads Gilbert, at a time when the Shifa hospital was bombed, and then the very latest one, Yumna Al Said, giving coverage to fallen journalists in Gaza. And throughout all of this, it is only the help and it is only the assistance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have been able to achieve all of this. And we'd like to obviously recognize the role that the management, the directors, and also the team, the very, very small team at Salam Media has had to play, alhamdulillah, in the last year. But more importantly, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for acceptance, to grant us sincerity, the strength, and the courage to continue doing our part for a free Palestine, inshallah. And I'm going to be leaving you with that from myself and the team here at Salam Media. There's still a lot more to come. My colleague Salailo Makodiri will be still taking you throughout the course of the day. We've got Al Hajj Mari Al Salakan, all of this in our coverage, commemorating and focusing on 365 days of this genocide in Gaza. So, from myself and the team, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.